want this to be over. I'm ready to get this baby out.
Perfect.
Hi, my name is Dana, and if you're new here, I make mommy and lifestyle videos. This video, I'm going to be sharing my birth story, the birth story of my lovely firstborn son, Nathaniel. Say hi. If you want to see the actual vlog that I recorded of the birth, you can go ahead and check below. I'll link it down below so that you can see really what happened throughout the day, like firsthand. But for this, I just wanted to share more of like the story and the behind the scenes and what was really going on. What to expect, I guess, if you end up having a premature baby, and what it's like giving birth during this pandemic. It's definitely an interesting experience. So go ahead and check out that video first if you want to see the vlog style. I'll go ahead and get started with the story. On May 30th, it was a Saturday. It was a run-of-the-mill Saturday for my husband and I. We didn't do too much. We hadn't really been doing much since the pandemic anyway, and quarantine. We decided to take a nap in the afternoon, late afternoon, and when I woke up from that nap, I felt a gush. And at this point, I was 34 weeks and 4 days pregnant. So I was definitely not expecting to be going into labor so early. I wasn't sure, I didn't want to believe that my water had actually broken. So I texted my mother, who is a nurse, and I let her know what was happening. She said, you could go in or you could kind of see what happens, because we just were, hoping it really wasn't my water. I went ahead and packed our hospital bags anyway, because I was already planning on doing that. And I figured, if my water has broken, we will be going to the hospital soon, so I might as well pack the bags. So I packed them pretty quickly. I'd already had a checklist, so I knew what I wanted to pack. While I was packing, I didn't have any other gushes of water, so I thought, okay, let's just see how this plays out. My husband and I decided to just watch a movie and relax, take our mind off of things. And about halfway through the movie, we decided to take a bathroom break. When I got up to use the restroom, at that point, I felt another gush. And this gush was tinged with blood and had mucus. So when I saw that, I knew for sure that my water had broken. So we decided to go to the hospital. We packed up the car, and then we headed off to the hospital. It took us about 45 minutes to get there. So, we were trying to hurry up and leave the house as fast as we could because we knew that it would take a while to get to the hospital. Yeah, you were there. You were in my belly. So when we got to the hospital, my mother met us there, and it was such a blessing to have her because she is very knowledgeable about labor and delivery. And so if you watch the vlog, you'll see that I really wasn't freaking out or anything despite going into labor early. I was trying to stay as calm as possible because I had had a pretty eventful pregnancy and I didn't want to take that into my labor and delivery process. And then I also was just aware of what was going to happen and what to expect. When we got to the hospital, I went into triage. That is when they confirmed that my water had broken and I was admitted to the hospital. So once your water breaks, you need to get to the hospital and you're going to stay in the hospital until the baby comes. That's basically how it works, premature baby or not. So I was admitted. I was antepartum, which is what they put you on before you have the baby, because I wasn't in active labor. I was having contractions, but they were, I couldn't even feel them. I didn't even know I was having contractions. I could only see them because they had hooked me up to the monitor. So they called my doctor, my nurses called the doctor to see if he wanted to do the routine procedure for what happens when your water breaks early. So essentially that is going on a medication for 12 hours. It was magnesium, I believe, and then having to get steroid shots. And so that is basically to ensure that the baby, when he arrives, is functioning properly, lungs especially. I can't remember if all those medications are for the lungs or if one of them was for in particular. I get admitted, I get those medications. It's over a span of 12 hours that I'm on those medications or getting those shots. And it's our first night in the hospital. Very interesting. Yeah, not the most pleasant, especially when you're getting to the hospital. It was almost midnight when we got there. So it was really late. I was tired. I was, just uncertain about what was to come. The next day, probably around the evening time, my doctor comes to the hospital to see me, and he lets me know that the plan is to hold my labor off for as long as possible. They want to try to get me to full term, which is 37 weeks at least. And because that's just better for the baby, and we want to try to keep him out of the NICU and all of that. So I'm 34 weeks and 5 days at that point, and I'm thinking, whoa, am I going to be in the hospital for like 2.5 weeks before I actually have this baby? Like, I didn't even know that was possible to hold off labor for so long after your water had already broken. So I was like in shock. My husband, we were looking at each other like, man, this is going to be a long ride. Like, this is crazy. But whatever it is that we have to do to ensure that our baby will, be healthy and whatever, they say is best. So that is now Sunday afternoon. So Monday comes, and earlier in the day on Monday, I was feeling my contractions, but I had been on this medication called Procardia, I believe, that was used. The point of that medication is to relax your uterus so that you don't contract or don't contract as much. Once labor has started, you can't stop it, but the goal was to kind of slow it down and, keep it at bay for as long as possible. So I had been on that medication once since I had been admitted, and then he's such a grunty baby, it's hilarious. So I had been on that medication from the time that I had been admitted, and by Monday afternoon, it wasn't really working very effectively. I had been feeling my contractions, nothing too crazy that I had to pause and, breathe through really, but they were getting stronger and stronger, and they were becoming more noticeable is probably the best way to put it. I didn't think anything of it, but I was wondering, like, whoa, if we're supposed to be here for 3 weeks, 2-3 weeks, whatever, am I going to be feeling like this every day for 3 weeks? I just thought that was going to be pretty intense, especially when the goal was to have an unmedicated birth. That is something that my husband and I had prepared for. We had done a hypnobirthing class, and that was something that I just personally really wanted to accomplish, just because I didn't want to start a cascade of medical intervention. And, however a baby comes into this world is great. I think all moms are superheroes. If things had gotten intense, I was open to medical intervention, pain medication as necessary, but I just was not aiming for that. So as my contractions started getting more intense, I thought, well, okay, this is interesting. My doctor came again Monday afternoon into the evening time and said that he met with some other professionals and talked about, weighing the pros and cons of trying to keep baby inside versus letting, things happen as they should, and him come, earlier than we had expected. And it was decided that we would come off of that medication, especially since it wasn't even being as effective as they would have liked at that point. So a Monday afternoon, ish is when I came off of that medication. And then I started feeling my contractions a little more intense than I had been before. So I was breathing through them, using all of my breathing techniques, and all night, Monday night, I labored. I wouldn't say it was active labor. I don't know if it's the prodromal labor, if I'm saying that correctly, but things were happening. Things were happening for sure. I actually got decent sleep. So I would fall asleep in between my contractions, like completely knock out. I would have a contraction. It would be intense enough to wake me up. I would breathe through it, and then I would fall asleep for about 5 or 6 minutes, because they were about 5 or 6 minutes apart, my contractions. And then I would wake up to another one, and I'd fall back asleep. So by the time the morning came, about 6 a.m., since I had been contracting all night, and I had been essentially for days, my nurse came in and checked me. This is only the second time I had been checked since I've been admitted, because they don't like to check you too much once your water has broken, because it can introduce bacteria and just cause other issues for you and baby. But since I had been contracting and all of that all night, I got checked and I was 3 centimeters dilated and 80% effaced. And my contractions were more and more intense. I don't want to say that they were more and more painful, because it's hard to even remember, but I remembered trying to think about how could I remember this, because I know it can be a little bit difficult to kind of remember. But to me, the contractions, I don't think that the pain level of the contractions increased so much as the number of contractions. So the time in between gets shorter and shorter, so it may feel more intense. But either way, I had been contracting. I felt like they were coming closer and closer together, and I was feeling it more. I knew things were happening. My body was doing what it was made to do. And so after I was checked, I got moved onto a delivery bed, which that's the bed that, gets you set up and ready when it's time to push and the legs go up and all of that. So I hadn't been on that bed, because that bed is very uncomfortable. So the time before, because I was antepartum and they thought I would be there for a few weeks, I was on a softer, more comfortable bed. And so now, since things were getting ready and they were gearing up, I got moved onto the delivery bed. I labored all day with the help of my husband. We walked the halls. He would do counter pressure on my hips, and he'd help me on the yoga ball. So I was on the yoga ball for a while, just trying to get things, I want to say get things going, because they were going, but just using all the techniques that we had learned in our hypnobirthing and all of that. It was quite the experience. As we got into the early afternoon, my contractions were getting more and more, I don't want to say intense, they were getting closer together. And instead of having a break in between that I had, I think I was still having a break. I was contracting, then I would not have a contraction, but then I would have another one probably about a minute or two later. But at this point, because he was coming so much lower, I just felt a lot of pressure. So even when I wasn't contracting, I didn't feel the pain of the contraction, but I would feel the pressure. And so I felt like I wasn't getting any break in between my contractions, because I was still feeling something at all times. I don't remember exactly what time I was checked again, but it was sometime in the early afternoon, and my nurse checked me, and I was 7 centimeters dilated. And I think it didn't take too much time after that until I was ready to push. Once my nurse had checked me and I was 7 centimeters dilated, she called the doctor so that he would be ready and on his way to the hospital to come deliver the baby. And because of all the protests that were going on at that time, there was a lot of traffic on the freeway, because freeways were kind of being blocked off because of protesters and whatnot. So it took them a little while to get to the hospital. And so I even though I was still moving forward with an unmedicated birth and all of that, I was getting very tired. Not physically, like I was falling asleep, but I was just like, okay, I want this to be over. I'm ready to get this baby out. By the time the doctor came, then my nurse had gotten everything prepped and ready. So he walked in, he like suited up, and we were ready to get rolling. Essentially, the whole time I was in the hospital, I did not get a test for the virus, surprisingly. We thought for sure we were going to get the swab up our nose. We did not, my husband nor I. We did wear masks when we were in our room. When people were not in our room, we would not wear our masks, or if we were in the hallway, we would put on our masks. And when it came to pushing, though, I did not have a mask on, and I think the expectation is that I would push with a mask on, but that is just almost impossible. So, but everybody else in the room for the most part had on a mask or like an N95. I believe my doctor had on an N95, and I think, everyone was safe and we were good to go. I didn't have any concern. I pushed. I was coached along by my doctor and my nurse. My mother was there. She was also coaching me, and my husband was there for support. And in about 5 minutes, baby was out, and he was on my chest. We clamped and cut the cord. My husband was able to cut the cord, and because I was in preterm labor and had him early, the NICU team was present at the birth. The cord was cut, they assessed him, and they let us know that he did not need to be admitted to the NICU. So we were so glad for that. We were just so excited because, we just didn't know what that whole experience would entail. And we were just very blessed and thankful that he was going to get to stay with us and that we would all get to go to the postpartum unit together. Yes, you remember? Once they were done assessing him, I was given him back, and we did skin to skin. I breastfed him for the first time. I did get stitched up. I did have a very small tear, and I got a stitch while he was being assessed, and there was no problem with that. It was very quick and easy process with that. And then my husband got to do skin to skin with him, and after a few hours we were off to postpartum, and we were there for about 2 days. That is the labor and delivery story of Nathaniel Lucas Bennett. So if you like this video, please do not forget to give it a thumbs up, and I will talk to you later. Bye.